I'm very excited about this one. Warhammer Community have dropped the details on the new Orc Warband, so let's talk Orcs. Before I get started on that, I do want to kind of do the boring subscribe thing. First of all, thanks to everyone who has subscribed. In a shameless attempt to get to that magic 100 subscribe mark that I'm hoping to get to, I am going to be doing a little giveaway. Full details of that will be at the end of the video. But if you haven't already, do give us a sub. Lots of Underworlds content coming. There's going to be some Indomitus stuff coming this week as well for their 40k 9th edition. And hopefully, once we're up and about in the real world again, some battle rams. So give us a sub and keep an eye out for the details on the competition on how you could potentially get your hands on one of the new warbands for free. Now to the nitty gritty bit. I'm really excited about this. I've had a quick peruse of the first article, which was about the kind of briefly describing the warbands, and then Warhammer Community just went with all of the cards. So we're very excited. Lots of people chatting about it all, and I really want these to be good. And there's so much info to go through. So this might be quite a long video. I do apologise. But are they going to be as good as people were thinking that they were? And are they going to play how Orc fans want them to play as well? So first of all, let's have a look at the Warhammer Community article and quickly break that down. Okay, here we go. So, Warband Focus article, Morgoks Krusha. So the Iron Jawz are coming to the Beastgrave. Again, I've talked about the models, so they look great, brilliant. And so let's just skip straight through to the fighter cards. So Morgok, the boss. I did say in my previous video that I expect all of these guys to be Gerzag at a minimum. This doesn't disappoint. 3 speed, shield, 5 wounds, which is nice. They do inspire when they have 2 war counters on the card. Again, something that I didn't kind of double down on, but it was something that I suggested, so it was nice to know that I'm kind of barking up the right tree. After this fighter's activation in which they made 1 or more attack action, place 1 war counter on this card. So every time this guy scraps, bish bash bosh, he can add a war token. He does have another action, remove a war counter from this card and can push each friendly fighter up to 2 hexes. This kind of ties in a little bit with an ability on Warcry as well, like where the boss has the mighty war and it inspires your dudes to do extra stuff. I like it, it's fluffy, and 3 movement. They all have the same kind of baseline stat level. That could be quite important for kind of getting your boys up in the grill. When he does inspire, switches, quite interestingly, from hammers to swords. Still doing 3 damage. However, his boss chopper gets a reroll, so just like Gerzag. Built-in awakened weapon, and I'm intrigued as to why that changed. I think everyone says that like 3 swords is the same as 2 hammers, maths wise. Doesn't feel it when you're chucking the dice, but when you have that reroll as well, you're chucking 3 dice with a reroll, which is quite good. And so, what's the next dude? Ardskull. This is one that people thought might be a shaman, judged by the artwork. Again, 315, 2 swords, 3 damage. I mean, that's still a lot of damage off the off. I highly approve. When he inspires his weapon, 3 swords, 3 damage. He then gets the option of the Frenzied Whirl, which is a scything attack for 2 damage with 2 swords. His little special ability, if he gets to use the Gore Basher, but when he removes a War token, the attack action has +1 damage. That's rather good. So you can just, if you potentially, you can one-shot the ogre. This is the type of silliness I really wanted with the orcs, because the brutes especially are they're tough and they're mental. So again, pretty solid. I like it. A nice mechanic. Next up, Thug. Again, 315. He starts off with 3 swords and 2 damage. When he inspires, that doesn't change, but his wild counter mechanic is for each one you remove, you add a dice for each counter. Now, I've been playing Godsworn all summer, and as nice as it is to chuck a ton of dice, it doesn't always work out for you. Out of the 3, he's probably the one you least likely want to sort of focus your inspiring on. We'll talk a bit more about the inspiring and the war tokens when I go through the cards, because you don't just get them for an attack action. So kind of the way I initially looked at these 3, maybe Thug is like he's an endgame, possibly. Like you inspire him last and send him in. Maybe the other 2 do a lot of the heavy kind of lifting, perhaps, with regards to the kills. But, it says here, playstyle, purely aggro. I mean, you can't disagree with that. I think they're quite balanced stat-wise. They could have, if they kept that as hammers, he probably would have been ridiculous. If these guys were hammers, it probably would have been, again, pretty ridiculous. And keeping it with 1 shield and not like doubling up on their dice as well means you can whittle away at them. Now, the cards got released a little bit later, not exactly the same time as this, so they a lot of people were like, okay, these are good, but you're going to need some ploys or upgrades to help generate wild tokens, because if not, you might not be able to inspire these guys in a game if your dice whiff. So let's have a look at the cards. But before we do, let me know in the comments. What are your thoughts? I think this is a fair baseline. The 315 is fair. Like I said before in the previous video, these guys are the next level up from Gerzag's boys, so it makes sense that they are all like that. I might have liked for Morgok to get a bit tougher when he'd inspired, but I guess they could have kind of had him in between Mollog and sort of Gerzag maybe, but that might have made them a bit too strong. Maybe they did toy with that idea, but then once you kind of look at all the things that you can add on to him, the might have been a bit silly. But yeah, let's know what your thoughts are on them, and let's have a wee little chat about those cards. Okay, here we go. The Warhammer Underworlds Facebook page spoiled these. There's 59, so I'll try and rattle through them as quick as I can. And some of these cards are pretty generic, so I won't speak about them too much. Some of these cards are interesting and new and fancy, which is good. So we'll start off with the objectives. Avalanche of Aggression for 1 glory. Score this in an end phase if there are more surviving friendly fighters than surviving enemy fighters. Great for an aggro warband. I don't like putting these before, anyway, I didn't like putting these type of cards in, because if you played a horde, you might not score this until quite late. But when these guys have 5 wounds each, it's going to be really hard to kill them. So that's a potential one. I mean, it's 1 glory. You can do a lot of killing. It's an alright card for me. Brute Triumph. Score this in an end phase if all enemy fighters are out of action. I mean, it's 5 glory, and if you're going all out, you're gonna want to have that in there, aren't you? It's not a 3rd end phase card. It's an end phase card, which is why it's 5 and not kind of like your usual 3 or 2. I think I'd have to play them first before deciding whether this is a guarantee. I mean, you're going out planning to kill everything. Why wouldn't you have this in there as like a little kind of score more type of card? Brutes is the best. Score this in an end phase if your leader is the only surviving leader. Not a bad card to kind of have in there. Again, really kind of high wound count does make it quite likely that you would be able to kind of kill their leader. Wouldn't be surprised if now these guys are knocking about that people don't really put their leaders in the fight unless they have to. So this might be quite against a very shrewd player, this might be quite a hard card to score, but against other aggro decks, like Rippers, for example, especially where people go charging in with their leader. Again, it's a maybe card, that one. Called to War. We've got their first surge. Score this immediately after an activation if there are 6 or more War counters on friendly fighter cards. Must have. You'll see as we go on that it does seem to be quite easy to get those extra War tokens. If you're just hogging them, then you can score this. I think it's a good card. I think a good score immediately card as well. And those flashing green eyes, we'll get to that later because it's quite interesting what they've done with some Gambit cards shortly. Good day's work. Score this in an end phase if there are more enemy fighters out of action than surviving enemy fighters. If you kill more than there are surviving, so if you've killed more than half, basically, that's quite a good card, I think, because if you're going pure aggro, you're probably gonna kill more than half, right? I mean, the 3 Warband people, you're probably, with these, you're more than capable of killing 2. With the Horde stuff, because they're squishy, you're more than capable. I think this is quite a good card. It's one that you probably mulligan if you got it in your opening hand, but I think for the Warbands and the style of play that they're promoting, I think that's a shoe-in. Got it, boss. Score this immediately after an activation if your Warband holds 1 or more objectives in enemy territory. I'd stick that in, if I'm being honest. If you're going aggro, fine. You've got that push as well, which is really strong. So you can kind of, you just push 1 onto an objective, and then you've got the score. That push is going to be very troublesome, I think, because of things like this, like this card. In their element, score this in an end phase if each surviving friendly fighter is inspired. Must have. Easy 1 glory score, I think, because it's not a minimum, and so probably have one that you would probably mulligan it if you had it in your opening hand, but apart from that, it's going to be quite easy to score, I think. a nice easy. I'd say that's an easy 1 glory score for you. Might of the Orc. Another surge. Score this immediately when a friendly fighter's attack action with a damage characteristic of 4 or more succeeds. Yeah, I'd probably say that's a good one. To quite an easy surge for them to score. I quite like the quote on there as well, isn't it? Just a touch unnecessary. But I'd imagine, particularly with the War token, adding of the damage for the War tokens, and then all the other stuff that people you're going to put +1. You're going to put +1 strength on these guys, aren't you? Easily, particularly the boss. So yeah, I think this is actually like, yeah. There's lots of ways of being able to do that. A good surge. Now what? Score this immediately after activation if your warband holds 2 or more objectives. I quite like that. Like, that's not something that you're really supposed to be doing. But again, that is a really easy card for them to score. So again, with the pushes, and again, it's like temporary victory, but just with 2 objectives. They don't need to be necessarily near in your half or their half. So it works well with that other surge earlier that we spoke about that I've already forgotten the name of. Swift Capture it works with as well. So, I mean, there's a lot of potential with kind of having that card in, and potentially you could play a bit flexy with these guys. Next one is Orc Cunning. Score this immediately when you play your 3rd or subsequent gambit in this round. Like, that's a shoo-in, surely. It's Ploy Master. Ploy Master was one of the most stupid cards, and everyone took it. So if you're an Orc player and you're not taking this, then I think you're a bit daft, really. Easy glory, easy surge. Proper Rumble. Score this in an end phase if 4 or more fighters are out of action and or have a wound token. That's an easy one. Lethal hexes, ping damage. It doesn't say if it's friendly fighter or enemy fight. Like, that's a shoo-in. That's an easy 1 glory, I think. Change of Fortune. Score this immediately. Oh, sorry. Right, this is a universal card, as you can tell. Score this immediately when a feature token is flipped in a hex that contains a friendly fighter. Man-trappers are going to like that. Stormsires are going to like that as well. So if there are, and I know there's one of the guys that subs, Liam, he likes his feature flipping with his Stormsires. That's a kind of shoo-in, isn't it? So I think you're going to see a lot of play for that one. Master of Battle. Score this in an end phase if 1 surviving friendly fighter took 3 or more actions in the previous phase. Yeah, that's, again, I know they've got Hawthorne in there, so yeah, I think if you're one of those, like a spellcasty one or Hawthorne Moloch, it's a card that is probably a shoo-in for those guys. Maybe Ripper's not totally too sure on the rest. Next up, Master Poisoner. I know there's a particular person at the Agents of Sigmar that might be very interested in this one. Score this in end phase if you play 2 or more poison gambits. So I mentioned in the previous video that I think the Daughters of Cain are going to have lots of poison stuff. This kind of adds to that theory for me. So if you're playing lots of poisons, you're going to want to play this card. And let's have a look. We've got a score this in an end phase if you have scored 3 or more dual objective cards. 2 glory. Dual objective cards. I don't play many of them. I think they do tend to be quite tough to score, but I think that's quite a fair reward. 2 glory. It could be a trap card though, because the 3 doesn't sound much, but you do tend to have to put a lot of work in to get them. Over my dead body, another universal surge. Score this immediately after an enemy fighter's attack action that targets a friendly fighter. If the friendly fighter was holding an objective at the start of that action and is still holding that objective. Again, if you're going to be holding objectives, then why wouldn't you take that? These guys, like the orcs, though, that to me, if at any point you're going to be planning on grabbing and sitting on an objective, then that to me screams as essential. Show of Force, Surge, and a Hybrid. Score this immediately after an activation. If 3 or more friendly fighters are in enemy territory, or 1 or more friendly fighters each have 3 or more upgrades. If you're playing aggro, you want to put that in. Rippers will swallow that up. These guys, the orcs, are going to swallow it up. I've seen a lot of people play kind of aggro Nurgle as well, so yeah, I like that card. I like that card a lot. This has got a few people excited. The Avatar has risen. So score this in end phase if a surviving friendly fighter has the Avatar of the Urgrub upgrade. 3 glory. Now, if you were around for the dark days of relics in Season 1 in Shadespire, this is something that they've looked at how badly that went for the game, and they've tweaked it for Season 3. So they've slowly released these different parts of the Urgrub. Once you have them all, you get the Urgrub upgrade, and if you have that, as well as all the cool stuff that comes with it, you score 3 glory, not 50,000 glory, which you would do with the relics. So again, I think you're going to get Urgrub meta. People are going to be using those Urgrub trinkets, I think, and it is an end phase again, not the 3rd end phase. So that's a good card, I think. War Unleashed. Score this in an end phase if you removed 4 or more war counters from a friendly fighter cards in the previous phase. You're gonna want that, right? If you're not going to be not inspiring at least 2 of those guys, or using the push. So I think that's another essential one. Trading Blows, another surge. Score this immediately after a friendly fighter's attack action made as a reaction during or immediately after an enemy's fighter attack action. If you have a ploy that does that, or if you have a fighter that does that. Quite interesting, there's a Daughter of Cain in there, front and centre. Maybe they're going to have a mechanic there. Yeah, it's a niche one. You'll take it if you have it, if you have that available to you, I think, because that would be quite easy to score if you have that reaction to be able to do that. And then Feed the Beastgrave. Score this in an end phase if there are no objective tokens on the battlefield. 5 glory, I mean, that's quite quite a big deal. Quite tough to do as well, I think, to get rid of all of them. Maybe everyone's doing it, I'm not sure. Like this guy here has said, you can only remove 4 maximum at the moment from spells, and like one of them's a spell. So maybe there's going to be some more ways to do that. So what are your thoughts on those objectives? Nice mixture there, and some fairly easy to score ones for the orcs, I think, but they're fluffy. They kind of fit the aggro theme for them, so that's quite good. The Feed the Beat, this one in particular, is quite interesting, which suggests that there's going to be more ways of removing tokens, and more poisons coming as well, which I quite like. And there was the the green magic-y eyes for the orcs, which got me pretty interested, but we'll get to that in a bit as it opens up something new for the game, which could come into play in later expansions. So we'll jump onto the ploys now. The first of the orc ones, Berserk Fortitude. It's a reaction. Play this during attack action that targets a friendly fighter. Before the deal damage step, remove any number of wire counters from that fighter's fighter card. The attack action has -1 damage for each counter removed to a minimum of 1. Like the wire counters are going to be so good, I think, and they're going to be frustrating. And having this type of card in your hands, it's going to make people think about target priority. I'd say this is a must take. Berserk Strength, another reaction. Play this during a friendly fighter's range 1 or range 2 attack action after choosing a target. Remove any number of wire counters from that friendly fighter's fighter card, +1 damage to that attack action for each counter removed. So, Berserk Strength, that could combine really nicely with the one with the extra dice. So if you've stacked more than like 2 on there, so you're getting extra dice, you're getting extra damage. Again, I think, why wouldn't you take this in your hand? I think this is a really good card and a really good way, as the artwork suggests, to buff up the boss. Brawling. Choose one friendly fighter adjacent to 1 or more enemy fighters. Place 1 wire counter on the chosen fighter card. That's pretty nice. You're only going to play that at the end of your opponent's, probably at the end of your opponent's power step. So just kind of a nice little buff there. And again, it seems quite an essential card to take. Brutal Attack, +1 dice to the first attack action made by a friendly fighter in next activation. After that attack action, place 1 wire counter on that fighter's fighter card. Again, you're going to want to take that. That, again, seems quite... You need that wire counter. So, why wouldn't you take that? Why would you take the... I'm pretty certain there's a universal version. Why would you take the universal version and not this one? Brutal Cunning. Play this after friendly fighter's move action, but not during a super action. That fighter makes an attack action. We all know what this one is. If you've played Iron Jawz from Shadespire or Warhammer Underworlds Online, you know what this is. Brutal Reprisal. Reaction. Play this during an attack action that targets friendly fighter and succeeds. Before the drive back step, the friendly fighter cannot be driven back and makes an attack action that must target the attacker. Like, they've got 5 wounds. Like, you're putting that in. Like, these reactions are all really strong and just very, very strong, actually. So, you're going to be putting that card in there. Eager Advance. Choose 1 friendly fighter and push them 1 hex. Place a wire counter on the chosen fighter's fighter card. As you can see, there's so many good ways of being able to do the wire counters. If you've only got room for 1 push card in your deck, it's going to be this one. Cunning Brutality. Another reaction. Play this after friendly fighter's attack action. Push them up 3 hexes. Again, it's something we're familiar with due to the previous Iron Jawz. Now, Power of the War. Choose 1 friendly fighter, roll 2 magic dice for each swirly, heal one the chosen fighter. They've got magic. They don't have a caster, but they have magic. Fluff-wise, War energy isn't quite magic in the same sense as everything else. So, interesting. I like it. I like the fact they've managed to kind of shoehorn magic into this warband, which, without putting a shaman in, it's good. Is it something that I would definitely put in? It'd be in the maybe pile, I think, because it doesn't. it's a ploy. It's not a spell, but it's magic. You're rolling a magic dice. The next magic-y card you can see here, War Energy. Roll 1 magic dice for each surviving friendly fighter. On a roll of a lightning, place 1 war counter on that fighter's fighter card. I'd imagine you'd have to do it like one at a time, so you can go, this is number 1, this is number 2, this is number 3. Having this in your opening hand would be quite nice, wouldn't it? It is, there's no crit on there, so it is just the lightning. So it's not super easy to score, but as a nice kind of ploy, particularly with that ploy objective, it's one you can just play, and it doesn't really affect the game too much. So apart from the fact that you'd be adding a war counter on there, but I like it. So I mentioned the fact that this is technically magic. So maybe there are going to be future cards, future universal cards, that somehow introduce magic into non-magic using warbands, if that makes sense. I like that idea. It will help maybe if it's... People constantly go on about how Season 1 needs to catch up. This is a good way to do it. Maybe that's what chat is for another time in a different form. Next up, we move on to the upgrades for the Orcs. Berserk Whirl reaction. After this fighter's activation, scatter 2 from this fighter's hex and push them 1 hex along the chain. If you cannot push this fighter into an empty hex, nothing happens. Restricted to Ardskull. Yeah, but like a bit of knockback potentially. It is a push, so if you're on guard, I think that works against you, doesn't it? Because can you be pushed on guard? May have got a rule completely wrong there, but if you can be pushed while on guard, that's a good anti-guard card. Anti-guard card, yep. But it's restricted to Ardskull. I very rarely play restricted cards unless they're super strong. So this, I guess, this is a flavour to taste type upgrade for people. Brute Charge, rolls of hits and rolls of hammers and swords are successes for this fighter's range 1 attack actions made as charges. Yes, please, stick that in. Magor's Fiends players will be very familiar with that one. Brute Swing. This fighter's range 1 or range 2 attack actions have knockback 1. Useful, not something that I'm too excited about. Incredible Bellow. Morgok. Pick 1. Push all adjacent enemy fighters up to 2 hexes. Or push all other friendly fighters up to 1 hex. It is an action. Again, I think that's a flavour to taste type card, that one. Useful, but it depends on what you're trying to achieve with your deck, I guess. Endure to Pain. When this fighter is dealt damage, reduce that damage by 1. That's a card we're all used to quite a lot. Is it needed when you've got all those wounds? Potentially. King Chopper. This fighter's range 1 attack actions have cleave. Nice. Really, it is kind of what the boss is missing. If he's inspired and you're re-rolling and you've got cleave, that's going to make him a bit of a beast. Seething Hatred. This one's for Thug. You can re-roll any number of attack dice in the attack rolls for this fighter. Attack actions that target... For this fighter's attack actions that target a fighter with a wounds characteristics of 4 or more. That kind of turns him into like an elite killer. So, you know, those warbands with the big bosses, like in the picture there, or the elite warbands with like 3, that's quite good. I like that one. Vengeful Glare. Reaction. After an attack action that targeted this fighter, place 1 war counter on this fighter's fighter card. This is something that I mentioned in a couple of Discord channels, that this, as an example of this, is potentially a way that you could get your war counters. This is really good because you have 5 wounds. Why not? You know, I think that's an essential upgrade for the orcs. Vessel of the War. This one is for Ardskull only. Action: place one war counter on the fighter card of each friendly fighter within 2 hexes. That seems quite good. That's for Ardskull. Maybe Ardskull was supposed to be a shaman, but after kind of play testing, a full-on magic user might have been too strong, perhaps, and they changed their mind. Maybe. War Headbutt. Remove any number of war counters from this fighter's card before making the attack roll, +1 damage to attack action for each counter removed. Hammers. That, I think that's going in, isn't it? You know, if you... Oh, I think that is. I think it's going in, because you want to switch to hammers if you have... Pardon me, if you have war counters, that's potentially a 4 or 5 attack hit. Yeah, I'd say that goes right in. This is the last of the orc cards, I believe. I really like them all as kind of like a flavour. They suit the Iron Jawz. I feel they've kind of built on the Season 1 Iron Jawz. They've made them quite fluffy, sticking to the lore of like the War Energy stuff. The Surge cards in particular, I think, are really good. I really like all the ploys. The kind of what they have done with this season of Underworlds is, I think they're trying to kind of pull people away from just using universal stuff, and the sort of warband specific stuff is very good. I like that because it gives your warband a feel, a flavour, like an identity. I'm a fan of all of these, and I'm really looking forward to playing them. But up next, we have got the final stretch as we have a quick chat about the universal stuff. Okay, so this one's a spell, as you can tell from the little Trivial Pursuit pie in the top left-hand corner. Blind Hunger, Gambit spell. If cast, pick one opponent and randomly determine 1 power card in their hand. That card is discarded. I'm not overly fussed about that, I'm not going to lie. Does it have a place? Yeah, I guess. I mean, it's a pretty easy spell to cast. So if you've got a deck that is based around generating glory based on the amount of spells you cast, that's going in. It's 1 lightning, particularly if you have the Stormsire leanings, as you get your innate and it's cast and it's done. You don't have to bloody worry about it. Picking a power card is tough, but you know, it's an easy spell to cast. That is all I have to say about that. Blood Scent. +2 dice to the first attack action in the next activation if that target has 1 or more wound tokens. That's a good counter for orcs. I've been playing Godsworn all summer. I like cards that add dice. Gets rid of Haymaker, doesn't it? That card is the death of Haymaker. Why would you take Haymaker? You've got that without the negative from Haymaker, I think. Closing Jaws. Play this only in a power step following your activation. At the end of the next activation, choose 1 enemy fighter in the edge hex. That fighter is dealt 1 damage. it's a control card. I can't see it getting much use because people don't really piss around in the edge hexes anymore, do they? If you're controlling and you're pushing people around, maybe. It's not for me. But I guess like you could use it as it makes them move that particular person straight away. I'm not overly fussed about that card. Dulling Dart. We got a poison. Choose one enemy fighters adjacent to one or more friendly fighters. -1 dice from that enemy fighter's attack action. This effect persists until the end of the round, or the enemy fighter is taken out of action. Yeah, that's good. It's an alright card. If you're playing poisons, yeah, get it in there. Go to ground. Choose one friendly fighter with no move or charge tokens. Place the chosen fighter on a starting hex in your territory, or if that fighter is a quarry, place them on any hex in your territory. Instead, give the chosen fighter 1 charge token. That's like if you charge, swing, miss, leave yourself at the end of a round, leave yourself in a really bloody stupid position, and then hope that you can get them out of dodge the next turn, or if they're getting ganged up on, move them out of there. It is a place, which means it's good for shortcut. Headlong Flight, +1 move for the first fighter to make a move action in the next activation, +2 move instead if that fighter is a quarry. If you have quarries, then you're going to take that, I'd imagine. Yeah, if you have quarries, you're going to take it. If you don't have quarries, you're just going to take Spectral Wings, aren't you? Or you're just going to take Spectral Wings anyway. Well, I guess Spectral Wings is rotating out. So this will be the new... Like, I don't think you'll see much of this until next season, because Spectral Wings is going to disappear, and then you'll have this. This is the quarry version of tracking, basically, isn't it? Because tracking is a hunter. Punch Drunk, reaction, play this during a friendly fighter's range 1 or range 2 attack action. Before the dry back step, scatter, shove them along. Nice. Nice way of achieving the knockback. So, yeah, it's alright. The target cannot be trapped, though, so you can't kind of push them in the corner. Scavenge defences, +1 defence to the chosen fighter in the first attack action in the next activation. Alright card. It's probably good for these guys, as it gives them an extra dice. I think it would have been nice if this was an Orc card, because Harrows have access to this. Something with, 2 dice already has access to this. I think this should have been an Orc card, I think. The ground shifts. Pick 1 lethal hex token and push it 1 hex into an empty hex. That is not a lethal hex. Could be I think that's more an annoying card, isn't it? Shoving around lethal hexes. I can't see this getting much play. Another lost page. A spell. Swirly. Use this during an enemy fighter's range 1 attack action that deals enough damage to take this fighter out of action. If cast, roll a number of attack dice equal to this fighter's range characteristics. Deal 1 damage to their attacker for each roll of a hammer or crit. Ooh. Now, lost pages are getting a lot of airtime at the minute, so you're going to see this card a lot. Oh, it's going to make you think twice about killing that wizard, isn't it? Oh, but yeah, I like that card. It's nice. It's basically rebound with a bit more hurdles to jump over. Amberbone Sword. Yeah, we're expecting an Amberbone weapon in here. This is 3 hammers, 2 damage, get your extra glory. You're going to see a lot of that. Personally, the God Sworner in me is loving that, and yeah, you're going to see a lot of that weapon. Claws of the Urgrub. Fighters' range 1 attack actions have Ensnare. Nice. Again, I mentioned earlier, I think people are going to be playing the Urgrub stuff. So we're going to be seeing that. Cursed Blade. This is an interesting one. So, +1 move. It's a really good weapon. 2 hammers and 3 damage. You must activate this fighter in your first activation each round. At the start of this fighter's activation, deal 1 damage to them. After their activation, give them 1 charge token. So you have to attack or charge with him to make it of any use. Could you see this going on? Like any of the orcs or like Mollog or anyone like that? It's interesting. It is interesting. I think a lot of people are going to play around with this. I think so. It's a bit of a Leroy Jenkins card as well. If you stick it on like a Noblar or a Skaven. Oh, eyes just lit up there. That's a great card for Skaven. Ooh, lovely. Hunter's Will. Restricted to hunter players. After a quarry moves or is pushed from an adjacent hex, push this fighter by the shortest route so that they are adjacent to that quarry. If you cannot, this fighter is not pushed. So you just follow them, basically. Oh, Rippers are going to love that. Rippers will love that card. As will Man-Trappers as well, I think. Next up. Persistent Blow is a combo. So this attack action's dice characteristic cannot be modified. Reaction. During an attack action that targets this fighter before the attack roll, make this attack action. Okay, nice. I personally, that's 1 sword. Not a fan of that, but it is a combo. I've not really played around with combos enough for them to work. I've not played against anyone who's got combos to work yet. Maybe there's just not enough cards knocking about to do that. Soulward Shard. Reaction. After an enemy wizard casts a spell before it is resolved, pick 1. This fighter is dealt 1 damage and the spell is not resolved. Or this fighter is not dealt damage when the spell is resolved. Then discard this card. Why wouldn't you? This card confuses me a little bit. Why wouldn't you? Put it in the comments. I don't understand that card. I'm being dumb. Strength of Terror. This fighter is a quarry. If this fighter is a quarry, +1 dice to this fighter's range 1 and range 2 attack actions. Okay, so the quarry hunter mechanic, people have kind of fallen out of love a little bit. I've noticed there's a lot more cards being added into the pool, so maybe we're going to see more and more of that kind of come back into things. Warding Companion. When this fighter is the target of an attack action, they are considered to have 1 more supporting fighter than they do. Hello. There we go. That's going in. That's very good. That's a really good defensive card, I think. My Lady Harrows would quite enjoy that. And that's it. So, what are your thoughts on those cards? There's not too much in those universal cards that are mega broken, I don't think. The faction-specific ones are really good, in my opinion. So I'm much more leaning towards those. I think when I do kind of gear up those orcs, they are going to be predominantly orc cards, which I like, and then kind of a little salt-based sprinkling of universals. But what are your thoughts? Let me know in the comments. and we'll get to the exciting bit of the video now, where I'm going to chat about my little giveaway. Okay, so thanks for sticking with it, whether you managed it in one go or whether you kind of split it up in nice bite-sized chunks, courtesy of the fancy YouTube chapter things you can now do. So I've added that in there for you. So, like I said earlier, in a shameless grab for subscribers, I am going to do a little giveaway this week where I do give out potentially both warbands. For that to happen, for both warbands to be given away, the caveat is I need to get to 100 subscribers by the pre-order day on Saturday. So if you would kind of like to help me get up to that and kind of have a chance of winning that, then do give us a little subscribe. The competition itself will be when this video for Daughters of Cain comes out later in the week. It will literally just be a comment on that video with what your favourite one is, and then I'll do a draw. Probably do the draw on the Saturday, and so then like you know that you've got it coming and you don't need to buy it. But yeah, pretty simple. Shameless grab for subscriptions. But if I get to the 100, I will give away both. If I don't get to the 100, I'll just give away one. Okay. So yeah, give us a sub. Keep an eye out for the next video that's coming later on in the week. When they do, it might be tomorrow. They might spoil it tomorrow. But do keep an eye out. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoy these videos. Chatting to a few people at the tournament yesterday, and they said that they've been watching, so thanks for that. And yeah, enjoy reading through those cards. Let me know what your favourites are, and hopefully see you all soon. Cheers. Bye.